Hey, hi, this is Sandeep, and welcome to the part 2 of declarative validations. So here I'll be going ahead and creating new validations on some attributes. So let's go ahead and create some validation on the salary. Okay, I have this employees and department created over here, and I will choose our salary column here. Okay, let's say I want to have something on this. Just click new validator. Okay, so here I'll say, let's say compare. Okay, and I would say that salary should be greater than or equal to. If you want to specify a static value, you can just say that salary should be greater than 2000. Okay, click OK. No, I want to define a failure message that sal should be greater than or equal to 2000. Okay, click OK. So this kind of a validation has been declared. Now if you click run, you can see the results. So as you see over here, we defined 2000. So right now it is getting 24,000. So the point to be noticed here is that when it is fetching the records from the DB, it won't validate. It would consider all the records so fetched from the DB are totally valid records. Okay, so this is a valid record right now, but as you modify a thing, as you modify this, or as you say that it is 1400, okay, and as you tab out, it will validate, it will trigger the validation, and our validation has run, and salary should be greater than or equal to 2000. It's pointing to that. So if we say salary is 2000, then it doesn't give us any kind of a validation error, right? So our validation is working fine. Now let's go ahead and create some other kind of a validation. So over here we created this one. We will go to this one only and add it. So what are the options present over here with the compare? Okay, with the compare, you can compare it with the query results, view object attribute, view accessor attribute. Okay, so let's try other options. Let's try this query result. So in the query result, you can type a query over here, and what would happen, the salary column would be validated against the result of this SQL statement, whatever you enter over here. Okay, so let's say I enter this statement that I want the minimum. This is the jobs, this is the job table, and for which I have not even created here EOs or VOs. Okay, so here you can write any SQL statement that would hit the table and get the records from there, regardless of the fact that their EOs and VOs have been created or not. Okay, so I say that I want to run this query. This will get the minimum salary of this column. Okay, so I would just copy it and paste it over here. Simple query, no funny business over here. Okay, so you can just test it also. It will say query is valid, and what I have here is that actually salary should be greater than or equal to the minimum salary of the minimum salary column. Okay, so here I would write the error message in case of failure, the salary should be more. Okay, I click OK, yes, so just save it and run it once again. So as you see the results over here, click on it, salary is this. Okay, so let's just see what exactly is the minimum salary over here. Let's run our query and see. Okay, this is 2000. Okay, so if over here I enter anything above 2000, it would be fine, but anything up below it won't be fine. So as I click over here, our validation would fire and it will say salary should be more. Okay, so our validation is working fine. Let's go ahead and edit it more. Now the problem is here I have written a query which would actually give me one salary. Okay, so this salary will be compared to the one value that this query would be returning. Now you can write a query which would return number of records and number of columns also, like this query. Okay, this query, if you just run it, you will find many records. Okay, and you will find two columns over here. And if you try to just use this query, what would happen is that this salary would be compared to the first record. Okay, first record of the first column. That is, if you run over here, you are getting the first record as this, of which first column is this, so 20,000, right? So in case you write some kind of a query which returns a number of records with number of columns, then only the first column and the first row would be taken into account. Test this. Okay, our message should remain the same, salary should be more. So right now it would take 20,000. Okay, here this query would result so many things, but it would compare the salary to the 20,000. Okay, should be greater than or equal to that. Just run it. As you see over here, so it was 20,000, right? If you try to enter something below that and tab it out, then you are gone, because validation would fire. Okay, so our validation is working fine. Now let's go ahead and again try to see what are the options available. So query results you understood, right? Let's move to further view object attribute. What it would say is that it would compare the salary. It will say salary greater than or equal to whatever you want to query over here. Okay, if you try to, I mean, you have got these view objects right now, you can query any one of them. So let's say I want to query this column only. Okay, so what it would do, it would just query this column of this attribute of this view object. Okay, and it would take the first record return. I mean, you will be querying only one column, so the first record return would be taken into account. And even if you see, let's see, uh, this salary, that's what actually here we are, by selecting here we will be executing this query, right? So if you select over here, it would result us this one. So the first record would be 24,000. So it will say salary greater than or equal to the 24,000. Okay, just run it. So as you see over here, if you click on the employees, uh, our threshold level was 24,000. Okay, if you enter anything above it, it's fine. Okay, but if you enter anything below it, let's say 40,000, you are gone. Okay, validation is working fine. So we will go to JDAV, and we will again try to see other options what are available. So you understood what view object attribute. You can even select others also. I mean, you can compare it with other salary, but the only thing here is that in the view object you cannot actually restrict it or bind it with some kind of a variable. You cannot say that this salary should be compared to a particular record which has been returned from here. Okay, you don't have that kind of an independence over here. And even in the query results also, you don't have that kind of independence. Whatever the query result, whatever the query returns, the first column and the first record would be taken into account, and that only will be compared. Okay, you don't have the ability to bind some bind variable in this SQL query and say that returns something which is actually kind of that it is in accordance with the current row in which the salary lies. Okay, so it doesn't go like that. You don't have that kind of a independence here. But view accessor attribute, okay, this is an interesting thing. Here you can have some kind of a bind variable thing. I mean, if you want to access, so I'll explain this with the help of an example. Okay, so let's say that if you see this jobs table, right, you have got the minimum salary and you have got the maximum salary. For each job ID, this is the minimum salary and this is the maximum salary, right? Now what we will do, we will go to the salary, and we will try to edit this rule only, and we will try to define or redefine this rule in such a way that for this job ID this should be the validation, for this job ID this should be the validation. Okay, so what we are doing, we are in the employees table, and in the employees table there is job ID column. Okay, so specific to a job ID, the validation rule would come in this job table, and we'll see that corresponding to the job ID which is appearing to the user, what is the minimum salary and the maximum salary. So it is going to validate against that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Right now I don't even have the jobs table here, so I'll create a jobs table. I'll create EO and VO for the jobs table. Query it. Here is our jobs. I'll name it as job EO, and here jobs view. Don't want read only, that's all fine. Okay, so now that we have got the jobs table. Okay, so what I was explaining you, that here if you select view accessor attribute, okay, I don't even have any view accessor attribute on the employees EO table right now. Okay, so I want the access from employees to the jobs table, right? Now what I would do, uh, I would go to the employees table, employees EO, where I am, and I will define a view accessor over here. I will say I want the access to jobs VO. That is, from the employees VO, I want the access to this VO. Okay, just to get that minimum and maximum salary, I want the access first over here, there, right? So you have defined a view accessor now. Now the problem is you have defined the view accessor. So from the employees VO, you can reach out to any one of these attributes now. Okay, because you have defined the view accessor to the jobs table. Okay, but you want access in that way that for this one I should get these two records, or this one only, or this one only. Okay, with the help of VXer you can get only one column, right? So let's say for job ID, for this job ID, for this particular job ID in the employee table, you get the access to this record of the minimum salary. For this job ID in the employee table, you get the access to the job table for this record of minimum salary here. Okay, so in the jobs table you would have to define a view criteria, right? I mean, jobs table is going to give you these kinds of things, so jobs table itself should have a view criteria. So you have to go to the jobs view and define a view criteria. Define a view criteria over here, add item, and I want to have it on job ID, because based on the job ID only, when I hit the job table from the employees table, I want to filter the records with the help of job ID. So I should have with the job ID item here, and I will say equals job ID bind variable, and I will define it job ID. Okay, so now our view criteria is ready. So it's a simple view criteria that I have defined. With the help of this bind variable, it would just filter the records. It would add this condition. Okay, it would add this condition that job ID is equal to this one, whatever is entered, and then it will filter the job record, and then it will return the filtered records to the accessor, to this accessor. Okay, now uh, right now if you go inside this accessor, if you click edit, okay, you want, while you are accessing the jobs table, while you are accessing the jobs record from this employee table, from this employees view, you want the records to be returned in a specific way after the filtration of the job ID, after the filtration by job ID. So in this accessor you would say edit, and you would apply this criteria. Okay, that criteria which we define over here, you will come in this accessor and you will say, while fetching the records from the jobs table, just apply this view criteria. And when you are applying this view criteria, as this view criteria needs bind variable whose value should be supplied over here, so here I will supply job ID. Okay, now this attribute basically is present over here. So what it would say, that through this accessor hit the jobs table, and while hitting the jobs table, that is the jobs view, hit the jobs view, apply this view criteria, and this view criteria has this bind variable, supply this attribute from the employees view, this job ID attribute. And if you go over here, you will see this job ID attribute is present, right? This job ID is present over here. So that's what we supplied in this, in that view accessor. So now we are ready. Okay, basically we have defined this view accessor which would hit the jobs table and will get the filter records from there. Now we go to the business rules and we will click this email, salary. We will edit it. We will say greater than or equal to view accessor. Now view accessor attribute, see, this expression is something which will have to define with the groovy expression if you want to compare. We'll see that later. Right now you are seeing view accessor attribute. Now if you select that view accessor attribute, it would show you that in the employees view you have got this view accessor. Now if you expand it, just say I want the minimum salary, right? So on a whole, what would happen in the employees, in the salary, it would be validated. It would say salary greater than or equal to this view accessor. So this view accessor, this is the view accessor, the records will be fetched from here, and while fetching the record, a view criteria was defined in the jobs view which would be fired. When that would be fired, jobs ID was a bind variable present in that view criteria whose value would be supplied from this employees EU. Okay, so for specific job IDs present in the employees you will get the filter records. You will get only one record basically from here. Okay, just click OK. I will say salary should be more. Just click OK. Okay, now you have said, you have defined for a specific job ID what should be the minimum salary. It would hit the jobs table, it would get the minimum salary from there, and it will be validated. Now I want to say, I want to have one more validator. I will say less than or equal to view accessor attribute maximum salary. Okay, and salary should be less. So right now what I am doing, I am just hitting this jobs table. I am getting for particular specific job IDs, I am getting this maximum salary, and I'm validating the employee record that in the employee record the salary should be less than this maximum salary for a specific job ID. Okay, so I have defined, we are all set to go. I will just run it to show you. So here if you go to the employees table now, here is our job ID, right? AD press. So if you go here, you say AD press, you say that minimum salary should be this and maximum should be this. Okay, so if you enter anything below 20,000, let's enter 19,000, the validation would be fired. Salary should be more. Okay, if you enter anything above this 40,000, let's say 41,000, if you tab out, salary should be less. So again another validation fired. Okay, so let's say it's okay, it's in the range. Okay, let's scroll through other one. Now ADVP, another job ID. For this, minimum salary is this, maximum is 15 to 30. It could be the salary. If you enter anything before anything less than this range, let's enter 14,000 and tab out, salary should be more. Okay, if you enter anything above this 30,000, let's say 30,001, okay, tab out, it would say salary should be less. So our validations are working fine, and this time they are hitting this jobs table, basically getting the minimum and the maximum salary from here and then comparing it, right? So this is how we take the advantage of view object, view accessor attribute in case of business rules. So I'll cover the rest of the topics in upcoming tutorials. I'll see you in the next tutorial.